Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 presented by Stakes. We preview every single football game in the Southeastern Conference every week. And right now we're going to talk about Auburn and Mississippi State. State had an off week after just a bludgeoning by Alabama. State didn't score until the final play of the game. As for Auburn, the defense is just going in the wrong direction right now. The Tigers gave up a ton of points on Saturday to Arkansas, which just had its way. Neither team feeling great about things at this point of the season, but State still got some things to play for. And interesting too that we had an athletic director, not a swap, but John Cohen.
The John Cohen Bowl here.
The Cohen, who's John Cohen rooting for? I don't know when he starts at Auburn.
That is kind of a tricky one, isn't it? Like how do you do that? You're gonna have to play it well. You can't play it neutral anymore. That's a fascinating. You didn't expect that. We break down the John Cohen support angle in this game, but I don't think it matters who John Cohen's supporting, because to me, even though this is a Mississippi State team that got, like you said, sort of taken down by Alabama, it's nice to have a week off after that, because now you get to regroup and play the team in another team in the state of Alabama that just is heading in the wrong direction. And as we said, are kind of just a sitting duck at this point in terms of what's next, I think, for that football program. But yeah, this Auburn team is giving up some points right now, and I think a rested Mississippi State team here trying to get back on track, have a chance to finish strong, still 5-3. I mean, I don't want to spoil my prediction by any means, but I think you probably know where we're leaning in this game. But I guess we do need to dive into the matchup a little bit more.
Well, when Auburn's got the ball, I did think that the Tigers showed some signs of life with Robbie Ashford, who's a mobile quarterback, did some good things against Arkansas. Of course, a good way to build your confidence as a passer is to face Arkansas. I think that needs to be mentioned. Here's an interesting thing. I don't think we've seen this happen all year. Auburn averaging 22.9 points a game, which is exactly what State is giving up. So I guess the bet is for Auburn to score 23 points here. Okay, Auburn has thrown 10 picks. State has picked off 9, as we've mentioned many times. State is a threat to run those back the other way when it gets its hand on them. State has recovered 9 fumbles. Auburn has lost 6 per rush play, which again takes out sacks. Auburn averaging a pretty respectable 5.4 a carry. Of course, has got 2 good backs in Hunter and Bigsby. And when it throws the ball, it is averaging 6.4 yards a pass play. Sacks taken out. State giving up 5.9 per pass play and 5.0 per rush. I feel like Auburn can run the ball pretty well here. State is, I feel like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, has really struggled to stop the run against good running teams. And Auburn is certainly capable of being one of those.
Well, and as we've seen with Robbie Ashford too, I think he's, we know he can put up yards on the ground as well. And I think that's kind of given a little more confidence there, because when you look at, was the game against Arkansas, he had 19 attempts rushing for 87 yards. You just kind of look at his game, right, and how he plays. I think he's had at least 9 rushing attempts in the past 6 games. So that is something too, when you combine it with the backs, like you mentioned, some talented guys are going to run the ball there. That is something that you can, if you're Auburn, you can at least look at and say that's probably our path to success, right? Because I think otherwise it can become challenging, because you mentioned, I mean, we know Mississippi State in terms of what they can do with the takeaways, and just I think this too, right? It's not just that aspect of it. It's having to go on the road here for Auburn, and I think play this game on the road, and kind of the setup there, given that you've lost that many games in a row and you really don't have anything to lose at this point. But with how Auburn can win this game, to me, it's keeping the ball on the ground, keeping it out of that Mississippi State offense's hands, which, yes, we certainly did not see the best of the Mississippi State offense against Alabama. We'll talk about them in a second. But, this is a different a different kind of matchup here, and I think that's probably the key for Auburn is to be able to certainly make things their own in terms of running the ball, whether that's Ashford, whether it's Bigsby or whoever. That to me is clearly dominating that part of the game and also keeping your defense off the field. That will be a big part of this.
There are a bunch of big games coming up in the SEC this weekend. To add some excitement to your football weekend, we are making predictions in the Stakes app every week. We usually drop those Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning, maybe. We want to see if you guys like or don't like our takes. Go to playwithstakes.com. That is STAKES/14. Sign up for Stakes. Place your predictions on our questions if you like our takes or if you don't. Use the invite code Southeastern14. Get a double welcome bonus when you sign up. Free to join the app, free to play. It is not a betting app, it's a predictions app. You can win stuff. It's a lot of fun, and you help out the folks who help us the most. Okay, when Mississippi State's got the ball, we all know what Mike Leach and Will Rogers want to do. That is throw the ball. State is averaging 31.8 points a game. Auburn giving up 29.9, and that seems to be getting worse every week. Auburn is really vulnerable to the run, giving up 5.5 yards per rush play. Again, that takes out sacks. State only averaging, well, not only, 4.8. That's a really good number for a Mike Leach team. That's much better than the last couple of years, and you've seen State run it at times with success. Did it to A&M, I think caught the Aggies really off guard. Per pass play, State only averaging 6.1 per throw. That's not a lot. Again, that takes sacks into consideration. And Auburn giving up 6 yards a pass play. This is a juicy matchup against a run defense that just seems to get worse by the week. But I just don't know how much State's willing to do it. It has run the ball 22 times a game, or 22 rush plays, and it's past 50. That's, I don't know if that split switches a little bit this week, given where Auburn's struggles are, but it's just hard to see Mike Leach lining up and running it against Auburn over and over and over again. I'm kind of intrigued to see how it plays out on the side of the ball.
Well, and here's something to consider. The last 4 games, Auburn has played who? They've played LSU, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Arkansas. Guess what? All 4 of those teams have the capability to do, and some of them just relentlessly. That is run the ball. And now you're playing a Mississippi State team that is not of that setup, right? It's a team that does not necessarily want to run the ball. Now they will, like you said, that we've seen that a little bit more, but I think there's a difference there. So I think sometimes it's like, yeah, you can look at Auburn's defensive stats and they have gotten just, like you said, sort of pummeled on the ground here. But I think you do have to keep in mind the opponents and what their strengths are. Georgia can run the ball. Ole Miss can run the ball. Arkansas can run the ball. Especially, really, I think all 3 of those, even though Stetson Bennett, we know they can do in the passing game. But those 3 teams, when they are running the ball, they can be very hard to stop. And of course, LSU, the problems presented by Jaden Daniels, and I think LSU rushed. They had 49 rushing attempts in that game against Auburn. So I think that's the difference here, right? Is kind of seeing what the game plan is for Mississippi State when we all know kind of what Mississippi State's game plan usually is, and will they find ways to take advantage of that? Because we have seen that teams do it over and over and over, but this is a different offense, and so I'm curious to see kind of what that looks like. We know when the passing game gets going, what Mississippi State can do and the kind of numbers they can put up. But, it is kind of intriguing knowing that Auburn has given up so many on the ground, but they've done it against teams that just want to run the ball down your throat. And Mississippi State's kind of obviously the opposite of that in terms of how they want to structure their offense, even though, like we said, it's not that they won't run it at all, but Will Rogers is throwing a lot. He's put up at least 45, 42 passing attempts, I think, in all but 1 game this year. So they're going to throw the ball. It's just a matter of, will they do some things and take advantage of that rushing defense?
Okay, Blake, I was looking this up while you were talking because one thing that just occurred to me, one difference, you talked about those teams that'll run the ball like crazy against Auburn. One thing all those teams had was a running quarterback, and Will Rogers is not going to do that at all.
Yep.
KJ Jefferson ran for 45 last week. Jackson Dart ran for 115 the week before. The week before that, it would have been Stetson Bennett, I think, ran for, I believe it was 65. And then the week before that, Jaden Daniels ran for 59. So there is an element, too, of what gives Auburn problems in run defense that State doesn't have. So
Could be
anyway,
interesting. Yeah.
it is. A couple of other things to consider. Auburn is actually the more disciplined team. It is giving up 54 yards a game in penalty. State 75. That's a lot. That's one of the 2 or 3 worst totals in the league. Special teams, according to the FEI, Auburn ranked 54 after its last game. State is 38. Excuse me. So I guess Auburn, there's one more game to update, but Auburn kind of middle of the pack in special teams. State is fairly good. Strength of schedule, according to Jeff Sagarin, State at 5, Auburn at 47. I think that undersells Auburn's schedule by a good bit. I don't know that I'm buying that one, but it is what it is. So with that, I know this is the point in the preview where we talk about trends, things like that are of interest. So fire away with those.
I'm gonna be honest with you. There's not really many here. Usually I can find you some good little nuggets, but there's not really much to this one. From our friends at Covers, the over is 6-1. Again, we're not professional bettors, but we give these trends for the betting folks out there, since we know there are betting people who watch these videos. We break down the matchups with the data and all that, but the over 6-1 in Auburn's last 7 games following a double-digit home loss. So that's a weird one, but it is what it is. Obviously, the over's been hitting quite a bit. 4-0 Mississippi State's last 4 home games. Although the under's 8-1 in Mississippi State's last 9 games following a bye week, so that goes back a while. But an interesting trend there. The under 8-0 in the last 8 meetings between these two teams in Starkville. So another kind of weird stat there, but that is something to consider. I don't have a lot more to add to this one, Chris. I'm picking Mississippi State to win this game. Although I think when you dive into the matchup, it is a little bit more interesting because of the style differences and some of the things that we just talked about that perhaps Auburn could do, running the ball with a Robbie Ashford and their running backs, and then kind of how Mississippi State is going to go about attacking this Auburn defense. So I think it makes it a little more interesting than maybe you would think, but doesn't really change my mind in terms of picking Mississippi State to win this game.
Yeah, one quick correction. Auburn's strength of schedule by Sagarin is 2. I looked that up. I thought that it was much tougher than I had previously said. It was indeed. Okay, the over-under on this is we're doing this Sunday night, 52.5. Auburn is an 11.5-point underdog. That makes for a predicted final score of 32-21. One more thing. Auburn, this is only Auburn's 3rd road game. The 2 that it has played, Georgia shellacked it 42-10, Ole Miss 48-34. I don't know what to make of State at this point. I liked it really a lot coming into the season. I think what's happened is it's probably gotten beaten down by the schedule. I feel like the over is the play here. Again, we're not professional bettors. Don't want to be. We just watch a lot of football and crunch a lot of numbers. That's kind of the gut feel to me, and maybe State to cover the 11.5. Is that crazy?
I don't think it's crazy given what Auburn's done as of late, right? But in terms of like they've lost 4 games in a row and they've given up a lot of points, so I don't think that's crazy to think that for the team at home. But so I don't think that's a wild thought at all for this team. So
my son is either very upset about going to bed or upset about something we said. But in any case, that's our take. Not a great feel on this one for me, at least. And so there's that. We will be previewing every single SEC game of the football season. So either we have already previewed your favorite team this week, or we will be. We drop all those on Monday morning to Monday afternoon. We'll have power rankings coming up and a ton of basketball coverage coming up too, as well as our live show on Wednesday. We've got more time to go through injuries and other stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. We'll see you again soon at Southeastern 14, presented by Steaks.